My name is Roger Dennison. I'm basically just going to be hosting this breakout room. I will turn the time over to Gary Godfrey, who will actually be making this presentation. This is MCS 355 and 356, using your assistant district commissioners and assistant council commissioners for roundtables. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. He will periodically ask for input and feedback, so just unmute yourself and then fire away, and we'll get this discussion going. So Gary, over to you.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody. I can't see everybody, but you're more than welcome to be here. We're glad to have you, and it's wonderful to have this representation from across the country. Let's start with introductions. I think we've got 9 participants. Are you capable of just introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm with the Crossroads of the West Council, and I'm happy to be here and waiting to hear your presentation. Looking forward to it.
And what's your name?
Nita Orgel.
Nita, okay. Well, we're glad to have you, Nita.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is. I'm with Michigan Crossroads Council. I'm a district commissioner in Pathfinder District, which is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm the dean of the combined masters and bachelors of Roundtable in April, and so I'm really excited to see your presentation.
Well, good. Thank you. Welcome.
And my name is Janine Goff, and I was just asked yesterday to be the Roundtable Commissioner. And so I kind of jumped in on this because they want me to be doing more with Zoom meetings and get things going with our council. And I am with the Crossroads of the West in the Spanish Trails District. I live down in St. George, Utah.
Great. Glad to have you with us. Who else have we got?
Hi, I'm Ginny Conway. I'm from Greater Niagara Frontier Council in snowy Buffalo, New York. And I'm not a commissioner at this point in time, but I've done quite a bit in scouting, Tiger to Eagle, venturing, Order of the Arrow, jamborees, a whole bit. So I'm just looking to add to my knowledge base.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm Jared Knight, the Assistant District Commissioner in the Timpanogos District of the Crossroads of the West Council.
Okay, very good.
I'm Lee Hansen, also from the Timpanogos District, Crossroads of the West Council. I'm a vice chair in the district and a unit commissioner, but it's our district, just to comment for the others, our district is about 300 yards wide, 300 miles wide, excuse me. Anyway, one of the big issues we have is how do we deliver Roundtable across that much area? And we're hoping to get out of doing it by Zoom, because in person just works so much better. But how do you actually deliver Roundtable across, these huge areas that we're talking about in some parts of the country?
Well, that's a tough issue, isn't it? Well, I'm Gary Godfrey, and I'm in Ogden, Utah. So I'm in the Crossroads of the West Council, and we're all adjusting to a great many changes and new variations in our scouting program, and so we're always looking for ways to implement what we thought we knew, but that got changed rather dramatically on us. I got my eagle when no project was required, but everybody had to have the swimming and life-saving merit badges. And for me, that was an enormous challenge. just about did me in. But I've been in scouting a long time, with a few periods of being more or less out or on the tangents. But I love scouting. I love everything about it. I have fond and vivid memories of my scout masters, and I can name every one of them, and places we went and things we did. So that's the emphasis. That's what we need to do, is give boys those memories. And we can do it by improving troop functions and other functions through commissioner service. So the name of the course is MCS 355 and 356, using the ACC and the ADC for roundtables in your district. An effective, okay, we can change that screen. Yeah. So we want to look at the relationships between the ADC and the ACC, and at the various kinds of responsibilities, strategies for trying to improve service at that level. An effective roundtable commissioner team is vital to the success of all roundtables. The assistant council commissioner for roundtable and the assistant district commissioner for roundtable each need to understand their unique position of roundtable in the scouting world. Roundtable provides a different method of unit service, but it's just as important as any other. The roundtable supplements the unit commissioner efforts by the program support it provides. So it seems to me that, in what experience I've had in this area, that a roundtable without an assistant district commissioner or an assistant council commissioner for the roundtable will inevitably falter, because you're putting, again, as we've said in the earlier presentation, you're putting too much of a burden on a small staff that needs support. And so if we don't have the support from the district and the council level, then we're going to be in trouble sooner or later.
Hey, Gary, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
So I was just told, like I said, I just was asked yesterday to be the roundtable commissioner. And in my opportunity to, meet with and discuss what this actually entails, I was told and understood that this is more of a facilitator. So for the roundtable commissioner, my job is to make sure that the meetings will be able to happen, that people are there, but it's not my responsibility to actually go out and find people to teach the classes. And that's actually the districts will be able to give me the support that I need, so that I'm just facilitating the meeting and making sure that everything happens. And the people who are presenting don't have to worry about putting together the platform and everything. They just have to show up and teach. So that's kind of the understanding. And
Sure.
I think that's what you were saying, is it's an important role so that everybody can have their part and just do a little bit rather than one person having to do everything.
That's right. And excuse me, you may find that there are times when you need to keep in touch with people and make sure that there will be a presentation. You prepare it or ask somebody to do it. But if people go to roundtable and what they were anticipating doesn't happen, then they're pretty discouraged. Well, I took all the time out and came over here, or connected up one way or the other, and nothing happened. And somebody says, well, I was busy and I forgot I was supposed to be on Thursday night. That won't cut it. And so you can provide a communication link that will help keep it up, keep the roundtable going. Does that make sense?
Yep, and just like anybody who is in a coordinator or director role knows that they need to have that backup just in case, but
Yep.
they do their best work behind the scenes. So
Yep. Yep. And now and then, it can be good to have in your pocket the name of somebody who could fill in at the last minute. You might have some old veteran that's done a lot of things, and just they know that if they get a call the night before, they can jump in and they can do something. That's not what we really want to do, but it's just having some backup available. The Assistant Council Commissioner for Roundtables is responsible to the Council Commissioner to ensure that quality Scout Leader Roundtables are being conducted in each district for all levels of the program in keeping with the national guidelines. This position works with the Roundtable Commissioner, Cubs, Scouts, and Venturing, who have been recruited by their respective district commissioners. Council should select the most appropriate volunteer structure for its unique situation. For example, the ACC for Roundtable could work with the district Roundtable Commissioners and or the Assistant District Commissioner for Scout Leader Roundtable. The ACC for Roundtable could work with the Roundtable Commissioners and or ADCs for Scout. And the ACC Roundtables could work for ADCs for Roundtable in specific districts or geographical areas as designated by the Council Commissioner. Now, in order to address Lee's question of earlier about how do we provide roundtables to areas where our district might be, what was it, 300 yards wide? 300 miles wide. Well, obviously, it's going to be really hard to get people to travel 300 miles to be to a roundtable if they're at the extreme end of the district. In the old Mount Ogden district, we used to have this situation that wasn't anywhere near that kind of distance, but we had Morgan, we had units in Morgan, and we had units in other places in the Mount Ogden district that didn't particularly care to travel that far down to Ogden. So we worked it out, and we had an ADC over Morgan, and they would hold their own roundtables in Morgan. The one thing we had a little trouble with was sometimes they would send one person down to Ogden to gather up copies of presentations and information for all their people. And then when the roundtable started, there weren't enough copies for the people at the roundtable. So we had to work with them on that and get some things taken care of. But that, for quite a while, that seemed to work pretty well to have a roundtable in Morgan, which is about 25 miles away, and another roundtable in Ogden. For the ACC for roundtable responsibilities, Assistant Council Commissioner, they're a member of the Council Commissioner Cabinet. They work on recruiting, talent management, training and support, and advocacy, program planning and content, technology utilization, information dissemination, and promotion. Now, we could talk about each one of those. The main thing is that the ACC for the roundtable is, again, responsible for not doing all the work, but for coordinating the quality of what's going on. Recruiting is just a constant need, isn't it? And anybody that ever feels like they get to the point where they don't need to recruit anymore, they've got all their talent in place and they just sit back and relax. If you do, you're in for a rude surprise one day when somebody will just pop up and say, well, I'm going to be done this week. This will be my last time at Roundtable. What does talent management mean to some of you?
I would think having a kind of your finger on the pulse of what are some of the talents and skill sets that exist within the district, so that
Right.
we know what we can pull from.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the willing horse the best one to ride? Not always. The willing horse may not have the speed or the talent or the wherewithal. So we want to look around, and it's surprising when we take a look how many people there are that have the kind of background that we can benefit from. So the assistant council commissioner needs to be looking at a broad talent pool from a variety of sources.
Comment on that.
Sure.
Outside the scouting organization for that talent. Very often the stuff that we do in Roundtable, we may not have somebody in Scouts that knows the area, or the subject matter.
Yeah.
But we can reach outside to specialists in it. One of them that I remember very much was a man that actually had a business making clothes for the Arctic, for the Army. And he came in and did a session or two on winter camping. And it was really informative.
Well, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Anything that any of the scouting people actually had capability of presenting.
Well, I went to scout training in Colorado one time. It was National Camping School, and we had some young leaders that were teaching that position. And so they were teaching us how to tie knots. Can't go to a scout training without tying knots, can you? So the young man in charge, he showed us how to tie a sheep shank. So I said, well, what's a sheep shank for anyway? Baiting the discussion some, and he said, oh, I don't know. I guess it's for shanking sheep. Ha, ha, ha. And so we talked about it a little bit, but he would stand and read the manual, and he'd turn the page and he'd say, oh, okay, now we've got the square knot. Oh, now here's a bowline. Oh, but he didn't really have any firsthand experience as to what those knots were good for or when they should be used. Well, one afternoon, another gentleman came by to give us some training in the use of a GPS. Well, that guy, he wasn't really a scouter. He's kind of like what you're talking about, Lee. He was a guy that worked with GPSs all the time in his career. So he was going to teach us how to read maps using a GPS. We went outside. We all had GPSs. And what amazed me, it still just kind of stuns me, is that he had maps that he handed out to us, paper maps that he had made of the area where we were standing. And he had every tree and rock and hollow and high point on his map. And I thought, wow, this guy knows his craft. It wasn't like, what's a sheep shank for? Anything you asked him, he knew, and he could use it at whatever level you were capable of understanding. So if we recruit people like that, and we have that kind of talent, and then we give them the support that they need, that can really improve any program. And if we went to a roundtable and we had an expert like that demonstrating the GPS systems, wow, everybody there would be really excited to get that information and to be able to use it. Well, technology utilization, GPSs are partly technology, but I think what they mean is computers, and you may want to just try to find a specialist that may not be doing a lot with scouting, but they could be a specialist in technology.
I think one of the prime example is, us helping people learn how to use Zoom. and all the ins and outs of using Zoom, because as we are finding, in these times, we're having to use that, and that could actually become a very useful tool in reaching out to these units that are far away from
Yeah.
the nucleus of the district, that find it difficult to get to those roundtables. So that's another way of using technology. I think there's also going to be a course on how to utilize the scout book, which is a big technological leap for scouters in keeping track of all the things that we need to manage. So.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. So how does the ACC help districts? Most of the participants are only aware of what they see. So if they don't see the ACC visiting district roundtable or don't have any training conducted by the ACC, then they don't see any connection. So, sometimes it's important to remember, for us who are kind of converted scouters, we think everybody knows about the terrific structure of scouting and how it supports the units and the councils and the districts. But a lot of people who come to Roundtable, the only thing they know about scouting is what they learn at Roundtable, other than what they do in their troop. And so they think sometimes that the ADC or the Roundtable Commissioner is a professional. I've had people ask me if I was a scouting professional. I said, "Oh no, I just work in the Roundtable." So we need to have them see that next level of scouting leadership, where the ACC and the ADC are involved in helping run the Roundtable and helping run the council. Okay. All Roundtable Commissioners are in a unique position to provide service and support unit leaders as the units put on their year-round program. They're a friend of the unit. Well, what can you ask your friend to do? Lots of things. A representative of BSA, that's what we were just saying. They show people that BSA is deeper than just the Roundtable staff. A unit doctor, what does a doctor do? Oh, don't get me started on what doctors can do. What does a unit doctor do? Anybody? What does the term doctor imply? No, nobody?
You're helping those that are not healthy get healthy.
That's right. They're helping cure problems of one kind or another. So it really helps if a person knows who their doctor is. If they have a problem, that's where they go.
So in the case of, instead of a unit doctor, this is probably then referring to more like a district commission, assistant district commissioner for Roundtable would be the unit here. And so the ACC is to help that ADC in getting their roundtables.
Yeah. Well, what's the difference between a teacher and a counselor? Anybody have a thought on that? How about Jenny?
Basically, the teacher directs a whole group, where a counselor is usually concentrated on the one person or the one unit.
Yeah, a teacher, that's good, thank you. A teacher helps disseminate information to people and demonstrate or help them learn a new skill or a new task or a new way of approaching something. Whereas a counselor offers help in some specific area.
Guidance. Guidance is a word.
Sure. Or people can have questions. They come to the ACC or ADC and they say, geez, I've been trying this and I have no idea how to get this done. Do you have any suggestions? Well, that might be counseling. And counseling, for me, very often works best with questions. Instead of saying, oh, I know how to do that. Here you go. But if you ask people questions, well, what seems to be your greatest need there? Have you tried this? How did that work? Okay, well, did you try this other possibility? Have you tried looking for a specialist that could help in that area? And those can be ways to do it. Do you notice something that's missing from this list? Teacher, counselor, doctor, friend? It's kind of a guessing game as to what I'm thinking. But we don't have a role in there for the preacher. Do we ever preach in scouting? Unfortunately, we preach in many aspects of life where it may not be appropriate, where counseling or teaching would be better, or being a friend. But we all know the instances of just flat out preaching, which usually has what effect?
If we preach by example, so we're not vocally or verbally preaching, but we're setting the example, we could definitely do that.
Sure, yeah. But if we use the verbal preaching, well, you know, this troop's never going to run right if you keep doing it the way you've been doing it.
Yeah, a lot of the times verbal preaching leaves the person who's being preached to feeling defeated or inadequate. And, you know, they kind of like, well, okay, now what do? I don't know what to do. And you just pointed out all my flaws.
That was my plan, and you just shot it right in the heart. Geez. Yeah. But there, as we've said, there are ways to get some preaching done, or rather teaching done, using a rather indirect method. Our next slide, what does the district commissioner do for roundtables, and why is it important to develop a relationship with them? So the district commissioner is responsible for all aspects of unit service, including roundtable. Commissioner works directly with the district and the district professional. As part of the key three, district commissioners take their own leadership of the district team of commissioners to ensure that all units are well cared for throughout the year. We can't have a big push in the fall and then the commissioners disappear. So obviously they have to be engaged year-round and committed and constantly coming up with new ideas and new ways for people to approach their responsibilities. ADC or district commissioners should assign ADCs for roundtables to support all of their program-specific roundtable commissioners. The district can assist in supporting all aspects of roundtable, and roundtable commissioners should be encouraged to participate in the monthly district commissioner staff meeting. Now, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, another meeting? Wow, I hate these meetings. But if the meetings are being well run, we get information that we just otherwise would not have had. And then we can pass that on and help develop things. And one of the main sources of information would be, say, in the fall for Klondike or for summer camps. Which camps are still open? Which camps are available? What are the prices? And people come to Roundtable because they want to get that information. Not that they can't get anyplace else, but Roundtable is very efficient in providing that. The Assistant District Commissioner for Roundtable reports to the District Commissioner and is responsible for ensuring that quality Scout Leader Roundtables are conducted with the district for all programs. Well, that's easy to say, isn't it? Quality Scout Leader Roundtables, that's the goal. It may not start out that way, but that's the goal. And what's the main complaint we hear about roundtables from unit leaders and others that are invited to the roundtables?
I don't know what you're going for, but I've been to some that have been really worth my time, and I've been to some that have been a total waste of my time.
Okay, now let's talk about number 2. What happened that they were a total waste of your time?
They were either the things that were presented were not applicable, or there was so much time energy spent in like the entertaining process that the
Yeah,
meat of the information that I was there for, we never got to.
right.
So
Oh, you're right on. And leaders often say, I'm not going to roundtable because of what you said, it's just a waste of time. So as ADCs, we need to make sure that nobody can ever make that complaint about us. In one ironic little situation, a guy who was an ADC complained to me that the roundtables were worthless and a waste of time and he wasn't going to go. And then guess what? He was made the ADC. And in that little ironic twist, then he was responsible for seeing to it that the roundtables were pertinent and interesting. And he did pretty well, but he had to struggle for a while. And he had to kind of swallow his own past comments. Okay, recruiting.
and I
Yeah.
do want to also say that there is a huge part of the individual. You know, any information can be worthwhile
Right,
if you apply it. And so a huge part of it is attitude. So,
right.
you know, we can't say that it's our responsibility to provide everything because the people coming do need to have that right attitude, but we can promote that more positive attitude when we are prepared.
That's right. And if we say, oh man, are you going to roundtable tonight? Oh, I just don't think I can take another one of those. And we've hurt the whole process. Well, recruiting. ADCs recruit. How do we recruit in scouting? Anybody?
Should be a personal invitation. A lot
Personal
of times
invitation?
it's just an email.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it helps to have the district executive go along with the ACC or the ADC and talk to people. And then, what happens is, the old scouting thing about recruiting? You tell them they'll have lots of support, won't cost them any money, and it'll only take an hour a week. Well, that's an old scout joke.
It
And,
helps if you take somebody who might know the person you're recruiting.
Sure. Good.
I just recruited a unit commissioner last week, and I personally did not know him very well, but a couple other scouters who are sitting on this prospecting committee that I'm on arranged the meeting, and it was really helpful to have someone who knew them. Kind of breaks the ice a little bit.
That's good.
I think participating in district activities like Klondikes and camporees and stuff, and just going around and mingling and taking note of some things that you're really impressed with the way some of the adults are, helping out with their troops or whatever it is that they're doing, and just identifying some of that and getting engaged with those people. There's so many people that I met just being a station manager for a Klondike station that I could then go back to later on and either tell my ADC for Roundtable, hey, this person here is really good about he does the Dutch oven cooking. So being engaged in the district activities also helps us to be aware of what the talent is that we have out there, and being able to engage with those people can help establish that first contact that makes it easier to approach them later.
The same is true as a roundtable commissioner. As you're looking into your audience of people, you can pretty much decide who might be a really good addition to the roundtable staff team and approach them that way. So same thing, different scenario.
Thank you. That's very good. Very correct.
And I think a huge part of that too is when we're recruiting people, they need to not only be told that they'll have support, but they need to feel that support.
That's
Because
right.
I know when I became involved, and then I had, I started off in Cubs, and then I had people that were saying, hey, we're going to go to Akela's. Do you want to come with us? And they brought me along. And then I did Akela's, and then I did Wood Badge, and my training became more and more involved because I was included and I had a friend with me and I was supported the whole way instead of just being thrown in the pool to swim by myself.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. That kind of relationship makes it work very well. But if you're recruited to go to Woodbadge or something and you don't know anybody there and you don't know what it consists of, then you're much less likely to want to go with a bunch of people you don't know for a program you don't understand. So thank you for that. Okay, let's take a look at using Roundtable Commissioners job program-specific Roundtable Commissioners. Well, what are the 3 Roundtable Commissioners that we have, or that we should have? Anybody?
Looks like we got the 3 right here. Yeah.
It's right there on the screen. Cub Scouts, Scouts, venturing. Does anybody have venturing units in their district?
Yes.
Good.
And I've never been to a venturing roundtable, and I'm also a venturing crew advisor for 9 years.
Venturing is a terrific program.
Oh yeah.
That does things that boys should just love if they get involved in a good unit. Okay. So the responsibility of a roundtable commissioner is to conduct a roundtable to help units solve problems by providing the skill and the will, and through discussing unit issues and linking units to district resources. We've talked about some of this already. It's the difference in each of the programs that create the need in each district to have separate program roundtable commissioners. It's certainly understandable why there are separate roundtable commissioners for each program. And sometimes in scouting, for purposes of economy, people collapse things down to where they've only got one commissioner. Well, it's about the same. Or we're only going to have one committee. We can't have more than one committee. But most of the time, scouting needs, the needs of the troop, are so different from the Cubs that you at least need those 2 different committees. Roundtable commissioners are normally responsible for their entire roundtable program, from planning to executing, evaluating the effectiveness to implementing positive changes, and starting the process all over again. Roundtable commissioners have the operational responsibility for all roundtable functions for their program. Without a great roundtable commissioner leading the way, the roundtable team will fall short of reaching their potential. Usually, now I would change that, I would say always, there are too many moving parts for a well-run roundtable for one person to reasonably handle. So that's why recruiting a great team of assistant roundtable commissioners is essential. Okay. Plan, supervise, recruit, train, evaluate. Those are obvious things. Commissioner presides over the annual and monthly roundtable planning meetings, sets goals, establishes written plans for the roundtable program. They'll work with the district executive and district commissioner to establish an annual operating budget for the roundtables. And it's important to attend monthly commissioner meetings to report on roundtable activities. So the commissioner really plays an intermediate role and goes back and forth between the roundtable and the district and the council for purposes of planning and budgeting and training and supervising. How about evaluate? Any experience with evaluating or any comments about evaluations?
As a roundtable commissioner, I would do evaluations generally at the end of the year, end of the program years, so that we could improve what we were doing, take what worked the best and look at what didn't work and then try to make it better.
Evaluating is a leadership skill in Boy Scouts, isn't it?
Yes.
And my question is, if we can never talk about ways to improve, how can we ever improve? People are sensitive about this. but we should be able to find ways to talk about how to improve. And that doesn't mean we have to accuse anybody of anything, but we can talk about how to improve things. Recruiting is not a single person's responsibility. We all have to be involved and make suggestions to the appropriate people who can then help us implement our suggestions and find people that would be appropriate for the positions that we're trying to fill. Once we have a roundtable team, we need to make sure they're trained. And one way we make sure they're trained is by letting them know what training is available, the basic training for the various units, and then advanced training up through even and including wood badge. Training is a journey that never ends. Commissioners must attend the roundtable basic training online or in classroom, and the Cub Scout leaders basic training, Big Boy Scout leader basic training, venturing basic training, and just make training part of the program. Advanced training, of course, the purpose of Roundtable, if you'd like to advance that screen a couple. The purpose of Roundtable, it really helps if everyone involved understands where Roundtable fits into Commissioner service. And the theory is that the fundamental purpose and focus of Roundtable is unit service. That is giving leaders the tools to help them run a good program rather than training them in a particular area. The next one. Recognition. Recognition's been part of scouting from the very beginning. And when it's done well, it's a powerful tool that can help leaders set goals, define accomplishments, encourage skill development, celebrate commitment, achievement, and inspire others to strive for similar success. I've always said that if the leaders aren't advancing, so to speak, being recognized, then they've left out an important part of the program. We expect the youth to be recognized and to advance, and so the leaders should as well. Comments, questions, observations?
Thanks everyone for participating. I believe there's